Hi everybody, I think most of you know me for doing dancewear and design and couture wear, but I do have an art bug thing going on, and I've decided to promote that. And after lockdown and not doing a lot of art, I've now decided I'm going to get my hands dirty and get stuck in and do what I want to do in the art world and promote the kind of dialogue that I really am passionate about. And I'm very, very fortunate that Sharon Caldwell Evans is one of my childhood friends, and she's back in the UK, and she's decided to help me promote my art, and but in giving some kind of context as to how we've landed up at this and the kind of thing we want to do in the future, what we're planning, the plans we have ahead. I was just wondering if you could give us some kind of background as to how we know each other.
Okay, so Michelle and I have known each other since we were kiddies. Our mums were best friends.
Yes.
I think it's important to know that.
And we know that because we got sent out while they gossiped.
Exactly. We always had to play outside. South Africa is mostly good weather. Whether it's winter or summer, it's mostly good weather. And our brothers were the same age. Michelle's older brother and my brother just younger than me. And they were the best friends. And the mothers were the best friends. So Michelle and I were stuck together, enjoying each other's company, and that's how we know each other originally. But we come from very similar backgrounds, similar religious backgrounds, as well as the whole South African political background, getting to know people from South Africa, the different 11 languages that,
yes,
that make up the colourful rainbow nation that South Africa is. So I think we see many things very similarly, and I think we can have some dialogue that's a bit different as well. I think we have different ideas about different things.
I think, one of the most important things is that although we agree on a lot, we disagree on a lot as well.
We do.
And I think that's what makes this exciting.
It does.
We definitely don't agree on absolutely everything. There are things that we look at completely differently from different angles, and yet somehow we, on many occasions, draw the same conclusion or a similar conclusion.
Yes, yes.
But to put Sharon a bit in context with what some of the conversations and the work I want to do specifically now that lockdown's coming to an end is, and I was very touched by Sharon's thesis. I'm going to ask her a few questions, just so bear with us for the moment, and this is well worth listening to. It's all to do with human rights and women's issues, and Sharon's got down and dirty when it comes to all of this kind of stuff. So I'm going to ask you what a doula is. You need to educate this face.
Okay. So I'm a doula, and doula is the Greek word for servant. So I am a servant. A doula is a birth partner, and it's a non-medical person. So doulas are women who, in South Africa, the company I trained with is called WOMBs, which are women offering mothers birth
Support.
I mean,
I'm glad we got there in the end. We were running out of words.
My mind went blank for a second. So WOMBs trained me as a doula, and one of the requirements was that I had to have had children of my own, had to have given birth to children of my own, and I had to be a woman. So it's women offering mothers birth support. And I didn't offer my support to paying customers. I was a volunteer. So I went into state facilities, some of them really, really basic facilities, obstetric wards, when there were no doctors, only midwives. And these people arrive, some of them with just a dressing gown and slippers.
And also they don't get delivered by a fancy car or anything like that. No. What it is they arriving what we would call a public taxi. So that tends to be a people carrier.
A minibus.
Yeah. A minibus,
yes,
with loads of other people, yeah, in it. And, you know, one of which happens to be a labouring woman.
Yeah, some of them are in advanced states of labour, and some of them are just in beginning states of labour. Some of them are also worked in a maternity hospital where women arrive with complications. So some of them need to be induced or perhaps have lost their baby and need to give birth to the fetus. So it was different situations, but in general, it's a state situation. So the women are in varying degrees of either poverty or neediness. Let's say neediness. They either don't have a birth partner, or their birth partners at home, or for one other reason, or at work, or perhaps they are a single mother who doesn't have anybody.
It's also culture and an area, especially in that economic bracket financially, where there's a lot of migrant workers.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily that the partner, if there is one, doesn't want to be there. It's the fact is that they might not be able to be there, yes, which is also another issue.
So there's various reasons why a woman would arrive in labour on her own at a obstetrics unit. So a doula is a non-medical person, and she assists a woman through her labour. That was my job. Whatever that may be, whether it's rubbing her back, rubbing her feet, bringing her a cup of tea, making sure that she eats and drinks through her labour, running a bath, making sure she has a shower, whatever those needs are, the doula meets those needs. That's my job, and I'm very passionate about it. So I think, shall we talk a little bit about our project and why we doing the project?
Yes, I think so. Are you happy to go into that?
I'm happy to go into that.
Okay.
So obviously, being within that situation, I saw, the way I put it in my thesis, I saw things I can't unsee. I saw women arrived there, women that have been abused, young girls that have no one to actually take care of their personal safety, being abused by people that should be taking care of them, having to deliver babies that they shouldn't have been made pregnant with in the first place. And Michelle and I would like to do a collaboration to put that into art and start a dialogue.
So one of the things that Sharon and I are quite good at, although we come from similar frames of reference, we have very different skill sets.
Very different.
I can't do all the wordsmithing thing. That's Sharon's department. She's much better at that. She paints like she's in grade 1. But she's really good at the crafty things. So I think a tapestry is one of those things that's very much associated with something that's done by women. Also, a weaving is done in all sorts of materials by women in Africa, and in other parts of the world, India, South America, Latin America, places like that. So to me, weaving something was consistent with what our concept was.
Yes.
Yeah. And
old. It's an old
thing. And the methods we want to use are old, and the materials we want to use are definitely old or have a historic influence. So we'll probably go into a bit more detail with that. And I do really think we need to highlight the gender-based violence.
Yes. Definitely.
And definitely in a patriarchal system. And so I remember an occasion, which is probably I've worked out now, is about 30 years ago, where I met a woman and her first child was also her brother. And I remember her as an educated woman explaining to me, even though she had a degree in science, that the way she viewed it was that she took one for the team, for the family, by allowing her father to have sexual intercourse and practice incest with her. And that meant that he didn't have to waste family money on prostitutes. And unfortunately, even though she was an educated woman, and the where we come from, where we grew up, and the surrounding cultures and what we were adjoining, and that is not unusual, and what Sharon's experience now has not changed. And we both feel very strongly that something needs to be done about it. Needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be a dialogue that needs to be had. And neither of us shy away from having the difficult conversations. So we intend of doing a collaborative piece. We've got various ideas of how we're going to do that. And we want to go ahead. We want to do this. We want us to have this. This is not acceptable. This doesn't need to be tolerated.
Definitely not. It shouldn't be tolerated, and women need to know that they have the ability to say no.
Yes, and all and also the fact is that the passive. I think there's also an element of passive acceptance.
Yes.
Of just not getting involved or turning a blind eye, pretending that it's not there. So you were speaking about a very powerful advert that was on television, which really rang. That really got me. I was, yeah.
The woman standing ironing, and in the background you hear the daughter screaming, no, 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 and it's just carrying on in the background, and the mother just turns up the volume, carries on ironing. And it's, well, you're assuming it's the mother. You assume.
That's the narrative of the,
Yes.
of the advert, yes.
So I think that sort of visual, in your face message needs to be brought home to us again. We need to do that.
So that's definitely one piece that we're going to focus on. Also, Sharon and I, because we come from similar frames of reference, and I'm sometimes not great. I'm very gobby, but I'm not great in communicating on occasions. Sharon's much better with that. So she's my translator. I think she's a bit like a babblefish in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I have to think about it. To become better.
But I think that because we come from similar frames of reference, I've got an opinion. Do you think that's going to help us communicate the things we feel really strongly about?
I do. I think that what you say, I generally, once I've thought about it and churned it around in my mind, I generally find a good way to put it. That makes you, it resonates with you and makes you think, yes, this is going to work.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that would be a really good starting place in our communication and the dialogues we want to have.
Definitely.